Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, I want to share with you all my thoughts on the new abilities being added to Dragoon in Final Fantasy XIV's first expansion, Heavensward. Again, all this information comes out of the Live Letter 21, which took place at a French media tour. I'm sure you guys all know this already because, well, I posted like, what, 8 videos before this, 9 videos before this. So, let's talk about the premier job of Heavensward, Dragoon. Now, they are definitely getting some really cool things. They're getting raid utility for one example, but I'm not going to lie ahead of time, I feel like there's something missing from the details of these abilities. Well, we won't know anything for sure for a few weeks yet because it is now June when I'm recording this, June 1st. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. But anyway, let's get into the new Dragoon abilities because they all kind of tie together with one main ability. So the main new ability that Dragoons are going to be getting in the expansion, and this ability sort of acts like a door to all of their other abilities, minus one, which we'll talk about in a minute, is Blood of the Dragon. This is a short duration buff that the Dragoon can place on themselves, and it unlocks a multitude of effects. For one, it increases the effects of Jump and Spineshatter Dive. Dragonfire Dive, once again, left absent. No real surprise to me after Power Surge. I think that's always kind of just going to be its own thing. But more damage on your more consistent jump abilities like Jump and Spineshatter Dive. Can't complain, flat out buff to their damage. Also, and to me, this is the more important detail about Blood of the Dragon. It allows the execution of new combo finishers. Now, let me be clear. That's not another ability other than Full Thrust or other than Chaos Thrust. It's a 4th tier combo skill, meaning you will do your Full Thrust combo and then have a 4th ability afterwards. Or you will do your Chaos Thrust combo and have a 4th ability afterwards. That is going to make the Dragoon opener pretty interesting. Where Blood of the Dragon gets popped, which one of these do you lead with? Is it going to throw off the timings with heavy thrust and whatnot? I have a feeling that Blood of the Dragon is going to make for very interesting changes to the Dragon rotation, as opposed to just now ending with these combos. Your timings with your dots and whatnot are going to be completely different with these new skills. So, with that out of the way, there's one final ability that it unlocks, and it's called Geirskogul, which I swear I googled the pronunciation before, and that's as close as we're going to get to the actual pronunciation. We'll talk about all these abilities individually, but abilities such as Geirskogul or the other new abilities, perhaps even some of the abilities the Dragoon already has, can increase the duration of Blood of the Dragon or decrease the duration of Blood of the Dragon. And your goal as a Dragoon now is to manage this buff, keep it up as long as necessary, and then expend the buff, reducing its duration on a super powerful attack. It is almost like having a second DPS stance, because Dragoons are basically, they have a DPS stance and a more DPS stance. That's pretty much how it's going to work now. One that you can maintain if played properly. But we have to talk about the individual abilities that are going to be unlocked, those 4th tier combo skills and Geirskogul, so let's move on to those now. So based on what we know so far about the 4th tier combo skills, which we're going to talk about first, it really feels like something is missing from these skills. It feels like they're just there to have an excuse to have a 4th combo ability, because there's no details other than that they do damage. So we have Dragonfang, Dragonclaw, which I'm assuming is not the real name of the ability and it's some sort of translation. It says it's a 4th stage finisher for the Full Thrust combo, only available during Blood of the Dragon. We also have Swinging Dragon Tail, which is the 4th stage finisher for Chaos Thrust combo, only available during Blood of the Dragon. But that's all it says. To me, those have to be mainly for extending Blood of the Dragon, and it has to be their primary effect. Well, of course, we imagine they have to do more damage than the respective abilities that came before them. Otherwise, it would have to be a DPS loss to use these abilities. So, that's all they really do. That's all it seems like they really do. It's kind of interesting though, having these 4th tier combo abilities, and I mentioned it before. Right now, I have the Dragoon rotation memorized. I'm not going to say it right now, but I think about what would happen if I popped Blood of the Dragon and used Swinging Dragon Tail during the Chaos Thrust portion, and then also tried to use Dragonfang, Dragonclaw during that section. I'm pretty sure that my Heavy Thrust would fall off at some point. So, it's going to be interesting seeing where Blood of the Dragon fits into your rotation, probably after the Chaos Thrust combo, to be honest, just to make sure that you don't end up in a situation where Heavy Thrust will probably fall off for its own reapplication, so, like, your reapplication of Heavy Thrust won't benefit from Heavy Thrust itself. That'll probably be a net gain, I imagine, just based on potency numbers and whatnot. It's going to be interesting seeing where these new 4th tier combo abilities, how they affect dot timings and all that, because Chaos Thrust being the 3rd combo skill and being one of your dots is definitely I'm really looking forward to it to see how it works. And assuming these abilities are good, it's just more damage for the Dragoon. I'm down with that. Can't really complain. So let's move on to the final ability for Blood of the Dragon, since there's not really too much else to say about these two. So the ultimate ability of Blood of the Dragon is Geirskogul, which I'm sure you figured out because it was the only one I gave a name of in my initial description. And Geirskogul is a frontal AoE attack that you learn at level 60. It's only available during Blood of the Dragon, and it reduces its remaining duration. So this gives it one main use, it seems to me. If you know Blood of the Dragon is done and you're not going to be able to extend its duration anymore, you would use it. That's mainly for things like Titan's jumps. And, you know, Monk got an ability like this too, the ability to spend their Grease Lightning 3 stacks if they were going to lose them before the boss jumped and, you know, then have to go through their chakra stances and moving through their stances when the enemy came back down. I imagine Geirskogul will be very similar. Also, if it's even possible to extend the duration of Blood of the Dragon to the point where Blood of the Dragon's cooldown comes back up, which it may or may not be, I'm not 100% certain on that, then you would obviously expend it, then rebuff yourself with Blood of the Dragon on the next global cooldown. It's cool, and it's also another AoE ability. So, it being a frontal AoE like, what's the name of the ability? Doomspike, I believe it is. Yeah, Doomspike. How can I forget that after playing 1.0? That ability was so overpowered in 1.0. It's just more AoE damage for the Dragoon, also, in the case of speedrunning dungeons or bosses with lots of ads and whatnot. Definitely good. I mean, all of these abilities are literally just adding damage onto the Dragoon on top of what they already have, and that's good. I mean, I've always envisioned Dragoon having no raid utility and just being a monster at DPS. With the recent buffs, they've become a step closer to that. This, to me, almost fulfills that on a level that is satisfactory. I want them to be this powerhouse, especially because it's their expansion. This seems like the perfect time for them to be getting abilities like this that make them into that powerhouse with very limited raid utility. As of right now, what raid utility they have? They get an extra 100 TP on Invigorate, so they, you know, but all their abilities cost more TP because they have a, you know, longer global cooldown for balancing issues. And then you have what, the piercing debuff for bards. It's like, and themselves, of course, but that's not a huge amount of raid utility compared to when you look at Dragon Kick and, you know, Goad and all the enmity abilities they're going to be getting. And it feels like they didn't have enough raid utility, so we were going to buff their damage. However, the next ability we're going to be talking about for the Dragoons, the last one of the video, is raid utility. So yay, they're going to get that too. The final ability that Dragoons are going to be getting is called Battle Litany, and it increases the critical hit rate for themselves and nearby party members. Now, it makes it seem like it's just an aura attack, you know, you buff it in an AoE similar to Mantra, or maybe it's an aura you give off or something like that. It's not made entirely clear. But man, the Dragoons and Bards just become even better friends. Like, it was like, hey, thanks for the piercing debuff, man. That's great. Now I can do more damage. Wow, thanks for the critical hit rate buff, dude. Look at all these Bloodletter procs, along with internal release when it's properly timed. It is going to be crazy to see how much that actually adds in terms of raid utility. Now, there's not really much more to say about that other than great. Everybody's getting more crit when you got a Dragoon in the party, at least for a limited amount of time. I'm sure it's got a pretty long cooldown on it as well, considering it sounds like an aura-related attack. But hey, I'll take it. I want to crit more often as a ninja too. I want to see Bards crit more often. That stuff's fun. Now, one last thing though, a lot of jobs are seeing adjustments to some of their old abilities, mostly things that to try and even the playing field, like we've talked about Protect and Shell with the healers. But Dragoons are going to have the animation locks on their jumps further reduced. They keep making me think they can't make it any shorter other than just having none at all, and then they just keep making it shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So I don't even know. At this point, you guys might as well be able to move while you jump because they just keep reducing it. Either way, it's good. Less animation lock. I'm not going to complain. It's good for you guys, Dragoons out there. I'm sure you are enjoying it. But I want to hear from you Dragoons about all the other abilities that you guys are getting. Let me know what you think about Blood of the Dragon and the 3 abilities that can only be used while Blood of the Dragon is active. And of course, let me know what you think about your new raid utility on the critical hit rate buff. But anyway, guys, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned because the only 3 jobs we have left are the 3 new jobs, Machinist, Astrologian, and Dark Knight. So those will be coming in the next 3 days. Hope you're looking forward to it. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, take care.